Hello, sports lovers. You're welcome to another amazing episode of Mark to Mark. I'm going to be your host, Carly Rose, and I'm here to take you through the week's biggest sports events happening. And with me, I have Mark Namanya on my left and Mark Ssali on my right. Okay, so let's dive into today's menu. We're going straight to the big abroad today. We have Formula One in Kigali. Is Rwanda the new Saudi Arabia? We'll be looking into that. Then we have European football. We'll be looking at Man United. Yes, I know what has been happening. We'll be looking into that. Then we have elsewhere abroad. Is the NBA sinking under the weight of missed three-pointers? And where does Greg Norman's departure from leave World Golf as well? And then we'll be coming back home with, of course, Mark Namanya taking us through the golf and the commissioning of Terriet with Mark Ssali. And then I'll give you a piece of wisdom, as usual, and then we get into the betting predictions. Now on to the big abroad. We're looking at Formula One in Kigali. I don't know if, Kigali is channeling. It's in Saudi Arabia, with these bold glamorous moves. What do you think?
Well, the big bombshell dropped earlier this week. There was an annual the gala, the FIA international gala in Kigali. There was an annual general meeting actually. They have an annual general meeting, so they held that one in Kigali this time, and it was at this one that the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, officially announced that they were going to bid. Rwanda was going to bid to host Formula One. Formula One has not been hosted in Africa since 1993. So this would be this would be the first time it is hosted there, if that bid is successful, that is. There'd been talk about Rwanda and Formula One from much earlier. It had been mentioned everywhere, but this was the official announcement, the one that captured the world's imagination finally. And of course, there's criticism that comes with that for countries like Rwanda, and that has happened before in the past when they've done other sports events that they've been accused of sport washing, which is why we're asking, are they the new Saudi Arabia? They ask Africa's answer to Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia has taken over the world of major sporting events since we've discussed it on here before. How they have the golf, how they've taken the ATP World Finals to Saudi Arabia, the tennis,
boxing,
all the biggest boxing matches in the world are now fought out of Saudi Arabia, not somewhere.
They secured rights for the 2034 FIFA World Cup.
FIFA World Cup as well.
They're going to be bidding for the Olympics very, very soon.
Yeah. So the Saudi Arabians have done that, and they've been accused again also of sport washing. Sport washing, of course, is where the phrase was coined to mean countries that are using sport and major world events as a way to clean up their image, ideally or supposedly tainted by human rights records and things like that from those respected regimes. Of course, personally, I'm not the kind of person sitting where I am in this part of the world. Want to judge countries based on such premises which are defined by the Western world, and that is because there's quite a bit of double standards, to be honest. And so when you if you accuse a country like Saudi Arabia, for example, if you're the Western world and you accuse them of human rights abuses and all, how then does the golf end up there? How then does all the boxing end up there? If you really are interested in that, stopping them from doing that, how does it happen? How do they...
Francis Ngannou, the reigning PFA heavyweight champion of the world. Now, the PFA is a rival body to the UFC in mixed martial arts.
Yes.
And actually, Francis Ngannou left the UFC after a pay dispute with Dana White, who is the CEO of the UFC. The UFC is the biggest combat sport organization.
Yes.
PFA is a rival of UFC, but they're all under MMA. When he fought Tyson Fury in that crossover fight, the money he made in just that one fight was more than he had ever made for his entire career in the UFC.
Yes.
In just that one fight.
That one fight in Saudi Arabia.
After payments made to his trainers, his managers, and everything, what his net gain from that fight was more than his entire earnings in his entire UFC career. How are you going to stop such a man from going to Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, so you see the thing is, like I was saying, so you can't tell me...
This is a Cameroonian. This is a
Cameroonian, yeah.
who left Yaoundé and went to the US via Paris out of desperation to make a living for himself. And right now, he's a millionaire.
He's a millionaire, multi-millionaire. So you can't tell me that you can judge Saudi Arabia that way and then allow them, actually, if you're the English Premier League, for example, allow them to buy Newcastle, one of the biggest clubs, traditionally the biggest clubs in England, which they actually did, because they are owned actually by a Saudi Arabia
A consortium.
Consortium, if you like. So ideally, under those circumstances, and to be honest, the issues of human rights and all, and governance and democracy and all, I think they cut across the world. I think the Western world, for example, cannot sit, regardless of what you think, cannot sit on certain moral high ground and judge the entire world by its standards without looking into its own backyard, for example. But I'm not going to go political under those circumstances. I'll remain with the sport, because this is why I support.
Mark.
Allow me to finish.
Okay.
This is why I support Rwanda and the bid for Formula One. Rwanda is a small economy in Africa, one that does not have too much in way of industrialization. It's not like they manufacture so many things that they sell to the world. If they've decided to use sport for global visibility, for promotion of tourism and boosting their local economy, so be it. Again, like I said, as a Ugandan, I wouldn't judge them otherwise in criticism, other than standing admiration and also in support. Because just here in our backyard, you just saw what we've just done. We've bid for AFCON, we've won AFCON. It has forced us into a situation where we have to build infrastructure, world-class infrastructure, which is going to outlive AFCON and bring more and more visitors and more sports competitions to this country, Akibwa, Hoima, and all. And definitely, it's good to help boost both our tourism, sports tourism, general tourism, and the economy. The amount of money that one Formula One weekend would take into the Rwanda's economy is multiple millions of dollars. Mark will tell you about the power of a Ferrari team or a Mercedes-Benz team being in your hometown for just one weekend.
It's massive.
It's huge. Yeah, and Rwanda have done these things as far as sports is concerned. They've gone ahead and refurbished their Amahoro Stadium and made sports football infrastructure that will allow them to host very big tournaments.
And they're part of sponsors as well?
Yeah, they've gone ahead and built an indoor basketball stadium, which is arguably the best in Africa at the moment, which means that NBA associates and all tournaments, continental, end up in Kigali these days.
Mark, when you start talking, you're not going to stop. There are many other things. They have a new course. They turned the Kigali Golf Resort and Vias from a 9-hour course into a full 18.
Yes.
And it's a brilliant course. The clubhouse is world class. Of course, we know about one of their plans actually is to host an LPGA Tour event very soon. Right. LPGA Tour is the Ladies Professional Golfers Association. Mm-hmm. And along the way, after LPGA Tour, the next level would be, of course, a PGA Tour event. And then maybe they'll have first play DP World Tour event before thinking about the PGA. And of course, there's the airport which is being constructed.
Yes.
I'm very sure you know about it.
The airport, yeah.
Listen, I would love to be in a country where Paul Kagame is president because he's very, very passionate about sport. This is a guy who I interviewed in 2009, and we spoke for 5 hours. I sat down with the head of state, and we're discussing sport for 5 hours. He asked me, have you exhausted all your questions? He had just watched the final between Roger Federer and Del Potro in the 2009 US Open. That
US
final,
Open, yeah.
It started at midnight and ended at 6:30 in the morning. And he told me I never took a toilet break, all through, because it was such an absorbing tennis final between Del Potro and Roger Federer. This is a guy who's flown to watch Champions League finals. He was in Qatar 2 years ago for the FIFA World Cup.
He watches NBA. He's on NBA.
He watches
courtside. He's on courtside for NBA basketball.
Yeah, he loves Arsenal. I mean, was it last year or 2 years ago?
Yeah.
The FIFA Congress was in Kigali. Rwanda opened the Pele Stadium. You know, I think it was the first Pele Stadium all over the world, which was inaugurated by the FIFA president, Gianni Infantino. So when he was here as a bushwar fighter, together with President Museveni, when I was still in the Rwanda, still rebels. He would sneak away with Fred Rujema to come play to watch SC Villa because he was passionate about SC Villa. So I mean, the guy, he loves sport.
He does, yeah.
He loves sport, definitely. And listen, it's a good thing, what Rwanda is trying to do. We know they've entered, they have those contracts they have with Arsenal and PSG. So it's a good thing for Rwandan tourism, and in the Rwandan economy. And the fact that, I mean, they're using sport to market their country to the world, it's a fantastic platform. My question, Mark,
Yeah.
I haven't finished. My question, and I've got to ask this because sport doesn't exist in isolation, is whether the Rwanda economy can sufficiently fund all these activities. Listen, I'm not a qualified economist, and I know that I mean there's money which is to be made, there's revenue to come out of this. But for Rwanda to host an F1 event, it's such a very, very capital intensive project. And listen, we have the biggest economy. There's a reason why the F1 event has been in Africa for more than 3 decades. I want to think that there are some other economies which have wanted to host the F1 event and
haven't managed to. Now, Mark,
that doesn't rank anywhere among.
This is how I respond to it. Is that it is impossible is nothing. When you put your mind to it, there's nothing you can't do, and that's the example actually Rwanda has made. Even here, I just gave examples of Uganda here. The people who, when we first won the AFCON bid for 2027, who were actually skeptical about Uganda hosting that, because at that point, even Nambola itself was not existent as a sports stadium anymore at that time when we were winning that. But its renovation has been expedited. It has been fast-tracked. So much so that right now what's happening is that Nambola is again our home for football. And we are hosting games here where we once played in Morocco and Tunisia and wherever. But it is also host to home games for Kenya and Zimbabwe, our neighbors. Who would have thought just 1 year ago that this was possible? Now we've done that. The construction of Hoima Stadium is going so quickly that every month you see new videos of the progression, and you're like, oh my God, is this actually being done in our backyard? People like Mark and I who have been here for a long time might have thought that this was a pipe dream when it was first floated. But in that same breath, our contract for Kibwa has been signed, a contractor has been got, and money has been got out of Uganda's treasury to fund that. And by 2027, there will be those stadiums and even training grounds which we didn't think we would construct. I mean, in Chambogwa and Makerere and whatever. So, if Rwanda have put their mind to it, they will do it, and they will find the money for it. First make the decision, and then go after looking for the funds.
Because the difference, Mark, is we talked about Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
The money Saudi Arabia is using for this event is pocket change.
It's already, it's pocket change. Yeah.
They have it.
Same as Qatar with the World Cup.
Same as Qatar with the World Cup.
Yeah.
I mean,
or Abu Dhabi with the Formula One.
They have all the money.
Yes.
Rwanda is one of Africa's poorest countries.
Yes.
And
so
they're dreaming big, hosting. I mean, all these global events. And listen, I pray and hope that they prove me wrong and they host successful events. But how they're doing it is. I mean, if they pull it off, and I pray that they pull it off, it will be...
There are so many ways of doing it. And one of those is actually is in forming strategic partnerships, because they don't have to generate all the funds initially for that on their own. But I'm talking about a country which, if they had told you before the current Kigali Arena existed, that they would build one like that in 8 months, not even a year, in 8 months, you would have said where they would get the money.
Yeah.
So Formula One is much, but they did. And they unveiled it, and it's the best thing.
What they did on the Motor Stadium is out of this world.
Absolutely. So this one is much bigger than all of those.
Way bigger. Way
bigger. Well, you can still be pulled off, but I'll tell you, this is the same Rwanda, which next year, because they're making these things happen, next year, in September 2025, they are actually going to host the UCI World Championship. That is a cycling race, or road cycling race. that is one of the biggest on the sporting calendar. They're hosting it next year, and they've designed over 200 kilometers of what everybody is calling perhaps the best course for that particular championship, which has been going around the world. And they're going to have people like Mark will tell you. You need to look him up. Mark will tell you about a man called Tadej Pogacar. That's the best cyclist in the world right now. A man from Slovenia. He's what Chris Froome was a few years ago, or what Armstrong was. Armstrong was a decade ago. These are the people who are going to be in town for Rwanda. In the same way as this Formula One annual general meeting, which I'm talking about, happened within their backyard. You know who was in town? Max Verstappen was actually doing community service in a Kigali school in Rwanda because of he had breached protocols for Formula One by saying certain funny things to the media during the Singapore Grand Prix. So he had been fined, and he did community service. He did it in Rwanda. Imagine how much that brought to the Rwanda's economy. And then he went ahead to step on the same podium as Paul Kagame and receive his award for being the fourth straight champion.
I think the long and short of this
Formula One.
The long and short of this, Mark, is that
from Verstappen on the stage to the track, Rwanda can do it. They can, and so can Uganda, and the things we are planning to do.
You have a president
and they're inspiring us.
You have a president who's so passionate about sports, and everyone knows that when the president wants something done, it must be done, because there's no other way around it. You have to do it.
Yeah.
You either do it or you do it. So
it's a good example for us. And here again, we've seen the same, like I've told you, which is why I cannot be hypocritical and judge them differently when I wish the same things for our country. Here, when our president has said, let there be Hoima, let there be Akibwa, they are going to be. And this is at a time when actually many sectors in Uganda are struggling because of there's not enough money in the national treasury to fund all these things. But if the political powers have said, let there be, and there is happening.
What you can also be sure is that while Terry took 14 years, you can be sure that F1 track will not take 14 years.
It won't, neither will Hoima, neither will Akibwa.
We are getting excited, I see that, but let's move on to European football.